From the organization point of view, most people I know, and there was a lot of notes that we exchanged as HR heads, because like everyone, we were absolutely not prepared for all of this. And so every organization I remember continued, health benefits and insurance, etc., for at least a year. They tried their best to provide outplacements, and also continued learning opportunities for their employees. So if they had like a Coursera membership or a Udemy membership, that is something that they continued for all the impacted employees, so that they could continue to skill themselves. I think from the employee point of view, irrespective of how unfair it is, I would feel that they absolutely need to know that this is temporary. I think the world will always bounce back. And what happened was, I would request all employees, whenever such a thing happens, leave gracefully, leave with dignity and respect, and do not burn bridges, and continue to talk to your current employer and your teams. Because I remember, as a part of one of the organizations that I was there, we, after 3 months, ran a rehire campaign, because we came back to our pre-COVID levels, right? And everyone who was not placed by then, we hired them back, and we, where possible, also paid them for those 3 months of loss of pay. Right. And so, yes, this is temporary. I would suggest that once you're calmer, take this time to spend time with your family, do things you've always wanted to do, and also upskill yourself. There are these courses that people always want to do, or they want to change their career tracks. I know a lot of friends who actually changed their career tracks completely. They they started their own organizations, or they went into roles which they always wanted to be. Right. And they are doing much better than what they were doing before. So yeah, in the long term, it kind of pans out well, I feel.
Got it. Awesome. So Rishu, again, like with what you've said, that I think it's extremely important to hold on to your professional workforce friends, or essentially the organization that you've been a part of. It's a small world, right? Our industries are not magnanimous. We operate in finite industries, and essentially we move, when we leap from one place to another, I'm pretty sure you get connected to folks once you essentially grow in experience, right? Now coming to oneself, right? I mean, while there might not be, let's say there is, I mean, at one point of time today, we see every day when we get up in the morning, Twitter, or whatever news channel you essentially pop up to, essentially talks about certain sense of layoffs, or certain amount of layoffs that have happened elsewhere or planning to happen, right? And that leads to a lot of anxiety and kind of tensions in yourself, right? I mean, what would be your advice to the young folks out here who are listening and who are essentially writing the same in chat as well, right? How would you essentially ask them to assess this, right? I mean, to be honest with you, I think it's, while the words, I mean, can be that guys, it's okay, whatever has to happen will happen, but internally, how do we really get on with it?
No, absolutely. It is very important to not, and anyone who's listening, I want you to know that it is very important to not, kind of put your feelings aside or put them under the carpet. Please, absolutely, if you're feeling anxiety, one thing that works for me is that I write down, I journal, okay, what am I feeling? What is the worst that can happen? And what are these 2-3 things I will do if the worst case scenario happens? I'll give you an example. So I mentor this young girl. She's a young mother, and she had this fear that the company is going to lay off, and she went into an overdrive, doing like 16 hours a day. And there was a time when she forgot to pick her child from the daycare, and that anxiety was kind of impacting not only her work, but also her family situation. So, one thing is for you to sit down and think about, okay, why am I feeling this? If 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 I do lose my job, what are the 2, 3 things that will get impacted the most? So one could be that I really love my job, and this is something that makes me happy. So I will lose out on the opportunity of making that impact. The second could be, as I said, a financial, angle. The third could be maybe, you have friends at work and you love to collaborate, etc. So write those down. And once you've written those down and, think about, if this scenario really happens, how long would I take, for example, to get a new job? What are my past accomplishments? What are my skills? Uh, how does my financial situation look like? So, talk to yourself, reflect. If you can reflect with yourself, very good. Otherwise, do speak to somebody you love or somebody you absolutely trust about your fears and anxiety. The other thing I feel, people should definitely keep in mind is that, as you said, collaborate. So collaborate with your network, reach out to your previous seniors, your mentors, reach out to people who may have been impacted. And the third thing is, I want you to not, understand that we are all very complex beings, right? Job is a part of us, but it's just one part of us, and not let your identity be defined by a job. So, also write down things. One exercise that I do as a, mentor and coach with a lot of people is think about your 80th birthday, right? Think, just close your eyes, think about your 80th birthday, see who all will be there to celebrate it with you. Where will you be at? How will your house be? What will your colleagues talk about you? What will your family talk about you? And when you kind of write that down and reflect upon, this is how I want my life to be, that 1 month of anxiety or that 1 year of anxiety, that will kind of seem small. You will have full clarity on your long-term goals, and that will help you reflect upon, therefore, what do you want to do today, so that you are in that situation on your 80th birthday. So I feel, yes, definitely write down, journal your fears, talk to people, collaborate, and do not just, do not identify yourself only with your job.
Got it. Uh, I think one of the best answers that we've heard in a really long time, and I'm sure most people will echo the same sentiment, right? Because I think what you briefly put forth to a lot of us youngsters out here is that what does not matter today to us probably paints really something large down the tunnel, or at the end of our lives, essentially, or let's say it's somewhere down our lives, right? Job is something that we do on a day-to-day basis just to keep ourselves happy, right? So yeah, lovely to hear that, right? Now I think, Rishu, during our conversation, you mentioned that while these are all the the psychological, or the internal feelings that one really can essentially put a control on, right? What cannot be controlled is on the external factors, like you mentioned, right? That have these 3 steps in place. One, obviously mentioned, have a 6 to 8 months of an emergency expense, or have your insurances in place, sorted out, right? Not just for you, for your dependents probably as well, because a lot of us essentially do not pay heed to the same, right? And the last thing you mentioned is essentially take some time off if you have the first 2 things sorted out, right? uh, so from your own personal journey, right, when do you think that, when did you start realizing that I could really have the first 2 sorted in place, right? When did you decide that I need to get these first two things sorted out so that the third thing can be in place if and if at all it need be, right? Uh, while obviously, as a CXO, you keep planning for multiple things, right? But when it comes to these personal, you know, personal finances, right? Or not, I think personal finance is a large term, but when I say that, having this precautionary measure, right? When did you start realizing this, early or in your career, later in your career? What do you suggest that, as early as possible at a certain stage? What is it that you feel that is the right time for the same?
I think as early as possible, but personally, I did not realize it as early as possible. In my early stages of my career, I think my parents were very young. I was very young. I was, used to live alone in Bombay actually, and spent. I'm sure I completely spent my entire income for a few years. The salary would come and I would spend it. And, I think things changed when the first time things changed was when I got married. And the second time things changed was when we became parents. Have, at that time, looking back, we felt okay, we should have probably saved more. So, so I think we've learned it the hard way, but I would request everyone to definitely park some of their part of their income, whatever possible, to savings, to funds for future, because as I said, the world's going to keep changing. You need to definitely not only it's not about not only getting a house or a car or maybe planning for your child education or dependence, but it is you also need funds to invest in yourself. So if you want to tomorrow, after 10 years, do another MBA or do another global program, you need to have funds, that you can spend on investing in yourself. So, we started, I think, largely when we became parents. And we had, our daughters had a difficult journey in terms of health. COVID, during the last 2 years of COVID again, not due to COVID, but we've had like a couple of medical emergencies in the family. And, we are today, of course, parents, we are caregivers to our parents who, need medical attention. And therefore, I feel that the decisions that we made then have come in handy at this point of time. Sometimes, a lot of times, for example, in COVID, we saw, the entire family got hospitalized. A lot of us do not have plans planned according to if everyone gets hospitalized together, then what happens, right? So I remember at the start of COVID, we bumped up our insurance plans, and we took an additional personal plan, and it came in really handy. When we had these medical emergencies in the family. The financial piece, of course, as I said, started with providing for a good education to a child. But as we kind of continue to work, we realize that we also need to take care of our parents who may not be in the same city as you, who would need immediate attention and immediate support when you're not around. So I feel, one should start early. And one mistake that we made was not having a financial advisor or a health advisor on our side. If we would have had that, then we would have, because the older you grow, the more expensive these financial and health plans get. Right. So it's important to, therefore, even if you start small, have a plan for yourself and start as early as possible.
Got it. Great advice. I think that's the golden rule of finance, that as soon as you start earning, make sure that you invest or essentially plan these things out carefully so that any black swan event type such as COVID could not deter you from where you want to be in terms of financial freedom, right? That being said, Rishu, I'll just move on to a couple of questions from the chat, and essentially if anybody wishes to just speak up, we'll do that once the chat questions are over. We'll try to stay within the stipulated time, and hoping that most of the questions get answered, right? Combining two questions from Ekta and Shubhra here, right? They've asked, essentially, how do you stay relevant, right? And how do you make sure that you are kind of extremely relevant, and how do you place yourself within your teams, right? I mean, in today's scenario, especially.
I think on staying relevant, I would say, invest in yourself. A lot of times, we feel that, first part of our life was education, and now the second part of my life is work. But I want you to, remember that these parts are now completely intermingled. So continue to invest in yourself, whether by reading or writing or teaching or attending courses, attending trade shows, webinars. Just ensure that, you understand what's happening in the world, and what is your competition doing, what are your customers expecting, right? So do not let that curiosity go, keep learning. Think about, I would want you to reflect every month upon what is it that I've learned new this month. And if you feel that you've been doing the same thing again and again, maybe it's time to, pick up a new skill that you want to learn, or, look at the latest industry trends. So that is, my tip on staying relevant. Another thing that I encourage a lot of people to do, especially if you are impacted by layoffs, is that you may not get a job immediately, right? But let's say you were in HR, but you want to go into digital marketing, and somebody may not give you a digital marketing role immediately. So start with internships, start with small projects. Thanks to this new after pandemic world, now there are projects open across the world. Right. Whenever I have some free time, I do volunteering. I do like projects that are put up on LinkedIn by NGOs or, people from different countries. And it kind of opens up a new, learning experience for me. Okay, so take up small projects, take up consulting work. If doing is how you learn, then keep doing, even if you do not have a full-time job. On how to set yourself up in a new place at work, I think for the first 3 months, just be curious, ask a lot of questions, find out where people are coming from. Until or unless you understand the history and where this organization is coming from, you'll not be able to kind of work on where we are going, right? So a lot of times we come in and we try and copy paste what we learned in some other organizations here, and or we kind of fix something that is not broken. So do not do that. I think the best piece is to just ask a lot of questions, be curious, spend a lot of time with your coworkers, understanding. And once you have seen what is working well, and you will identify, of course, with your managers and coworkers, that these are pieces that need immediate attention, and work on that. Bring your strengths to the table. So I think bring in a lot of humility. People who ask a lot of questions and who are really wanting to make an impact, do not come to the workplace with okay, I'm going to kind of change the world. So just come with a lot of curiosity and humility, and try and understand what are the good things that have happened in past, and build on that.
Got it. So, just quickly, putting that out, I think, Rishu, as you mentioned that, firstly, spend time on yourself, keep upgrading yourself, right? Even your iPhone takes at least after every 2 to 3 months, moves to a new iOS, right? You ought to do that fun with oneself, right? So great tip on that. And it's good to see that, a seasoned industry leader like you also spends time on, relearning and, learning on a regular basis, right? So Shubham, I think I had your question as, one of the asking questions as well, in terms of, how to stay calm and essentially how to build yourself a strong psychology with all the negativity around, right? But let me just open the floor to, if somebody wishes to ask a question with, by themselves to Rishu, um, to the audience, anything, just if you have anything to talk about, your experiences. I think this is an engaging forum. We'll be happy to hear that as well. I don't see anybody kind of, asking stuff. But what would be your parting, thoughts, Rishu, essentially, right? Assuming that nobody has questions to ask, right? Um, if we're say, today you take a step back, right? And essentially, you know, if you were a young employee yourself today, right? Um, how would you trend in talent, right? How would you stand out? Let's assume if, if you were not the CHR of Zivame today, how would you stay relevant? How would you be trending in the talent pool?
So if I was a young employee, and if, in fact, a lot of advice, that I would have given to my younger self is that, be self-aware, reflect a lot. Okay. So very, somewhere midpoint in my career, I realized these are 2, 3 things that I value a lot. Right. So these are my core values, and I need a workplace that understands my core values and I can bring my authentic self to work. Right. And that helped me kind of get a lot of perfect matches on the teams that I want to work with, or the causes that I want to work on. So, I'm sure some of you must have read Ikigai. I think they've kind of explained it the best, right? That do what you love, and, if you get paid for it and the world needs it, well, that's like the perfect place to be. So, but you need to identify what you're good at. You need to identify what you love to do. And then, and what matters to you. Right. So if you know all of this, I think it is where you will find workplaces that will align your personal goals with where your personal goals and the org goals will get aligned. And that is a beautiful place to be. And if you're in a workplace like that, then you don't have to make a lot of effort to trend, right? Then you're naturally curious, you're naturally wanting to make an impact and learn more and do more, and pick up a lot of different projects. So self-reflect, think about what is it that you want from life, and ensure that your work goals align with those goals.
Got it. Awesome. I think with that, we end the session, Rishu. I think this has been really enriching for all of us here. And I hope that, we were able to add, some change in the folks that were present here, right? With your enlightening thoughts for sure. And then once again, thank you very much on behalf of the entire Nova team and the quorum present here for, your enriching words, your guidance, your experience. Right. Thank you so much. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot. Take care.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.